The winning blueprint presents. In the lab.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
So we knew that this game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Atlanta Falcons had the potential to be a nail-biter. I said it on Friday. I thought it was going to be a nail-biter. Thought it was going to be a very good football game. But I also said that I thought the Seahawks could not afford to start this game flat. They couldn't afford to fall behind by 10, by 14, by 13 in this game. They ultimately fell behind by 20 in this game. On the road against the number one seed in the NFC in the Atlanta Falcons. You're on the road. It's a raucous crowd in the Georgia Dome. No way they come back. No way. They're done. And I thought that Pete Carroll in this football game was too aggressive. One thing, though, I will say, I don't like the Seattle Seahawks. I can't stand the Seahawks. But I do respect the hell out of the Seattle Seahawks. Really do. And I respect Pete Carroll. Because you say what you want about his rah-rah act. That's not an act. That's who Pete Carroll is. He's just a guy that's very cheerful. And he's very emotional. And I tell you one thing else that Pete Carroll is. He's not afraid. And that's what I like about Pete Carroll. Those were mistakes that he made in this game. Going for it and not taking the points on two different occasions. But that's who Pete Carroll is. He's a gunslinger. He's aggressive. Who saw Russell Wilson starting from day one as the Seattle Seahawks starter? No one. That's why everyone thought they went out and acquired Matt Flynn to be the starter. But Pete Carroll saw something else. And he's a gambler. He's a risk taker. And that's what he does. And it pans out for him 7 times out of 10. And with odds like that, you can take all the risks you like. It backfired on him in this game. He doesn't take some of those risks. Maybe they win this game. But I tell you what, for his team to believe and rally back from 20 down in the fourth quarter, from 20 down in the third quarter, from all the things that went wrong and went awry in the first half, for them to come back, stay the course, and have a chance to win, says a lot about his football team, says a lot about him as a coach, says a lot about the message that he preaches to his players and the way that it gets across. They understand that they're never out of a football game, and it starts with Pete Carroll. And I think Pete Carroll is one heck of a football coach. I will say that. Now, as far as on the field is concerned, Richard Sherman got into it with, and he gets into it with everyone, a war of words with everyone, with Roddy White. And I thought Roddy White, for the most part, had his turn. And I thought that Richard Sherman had his turn. They both had some good plays on each other. But Roddy White did get the big deep ball for a touchdown on him. He did pick up several crucial third downs. But Richard Sherman had a solid day at the cornerback position. As much as I hate to admit it, because he talked so much trash, the man is really good. And if you want my opinion, honestly, I think he's the best corner in the National Football League. Darrelle Revis is a good corner, but I think he lacks some of the physical attributes that Richard Sherman possesses. I mean, we're talking about a 6'3" corner that can run with just about any receiver in the league. He's long, he's lanky, he's athletic, and he makes plays on the football. He's always looking for the ball. So whether it's underthrown and he can pick it off, or whether it's thrown perfectly and he can still knock it away because he's in such good coverage and he's looking for the ball, Richard Sherman is a player. He's a player. And I have to respect his game. It's one of the best I've seen do it in a long time. I feel like I feel like Darrelle Revis's game is more predicated on physicality, just really getting into the receiver and really disrupting the timing of the route and really getting away with pass interference 50% of the time. And so I feel like Richard Sherman, yeah, he does a lot of the same tactics. He uses a lot of the same ploys getting into the receiver, but he does it within the framework and the guidelines of the rules. And so I like his game a lot. But they fell behind 20-0 in this game. And he went for it on a 4th down in the mid part of the second quarter. He should have took the field goal. At that time in the game, it was 13-0. Your team is reeling. You just need to see some points on the scoreboard, get some momentum, kind of slow things down, quiet the crowd down a little bit. Instead, you did the direct opposite. You gave the crowd more fuel to make a lot more noise and get into the game. And you also led directly to a Falcons touchdown because 3 plays later after that failed attempt, they went up top and then he hit Roddy White for that 57-yard touchdown pass, and it was 20-0. They get the ball back, they drive all the way down the field, but thought this was poor clock management and a misuse of a timeout by Pete Carroll after completing an 8-yard pass from the 20 down to about the 12. You should be spiking that. There's no reason for you to be burning a timeout when all you did was move the football 8 yards up the field. It's not like you got offensive linemen laboring 30 yards down the field and you need to ice one because you're going to eat up 17 seconds of clock. There was about 20 to 15 seconds left on the clock, and he decides to call his last timeout, which meant he couldn't use the middle of the field at all. I just thought it was a bad call and decision on his part. He should have been spiking it. They would have spiked it with about 12 seconds left. Had that one timeout, the whole field is available to you, and in case you take a sack, which is what ultimately happened, you got that timeout, you still kick the field goal and go to halftime with at least something in your back pocket. Instead, you get nothing and you like it. And it's 20-0 at the half, and it's looking like the Falcons are going to dominate them and run away with this one. But I never for 1 second thought that the Falcons were going to just blow them out of the stadium. I didn't think it was going to be as close as it ultimately ended up being. But I thought that the Falcons would win this one 30-20. They would put it on cruise control, maybe score 10 more points throughout the third and fourth quarter. Seahawks would, cut it to 27-20 at some point. Falcons would kick a late field goal, extend it to a 2-possession game, and they would never get that close. They would never get any closer than that, but no. The Seahawks refused to give up in this game. They took the opening possession of the third quarter. They go down and get a touchdown, cut it to 20-7, and the Falcons responded beautifully. What you want out of a champion. You take a shot, you need to give one back. And they took a shot from the Seahawks on that opening possession of the second half, and they went right down and responded with a shot of their own, getting a touchdown in the end zone and extending that lead back out to 27-7. And they went into the fourth quarter with a 20-point lead to the Atlanta Falcons. And then things changed. All of a sudden, this Atlanta Falcons defense, who got no pressure all game long, they really missed the presence of John Abraham. He gave it a go early in the game, but he couldn't return later on. He re-aggravated that ankle. He should have never been playing in that season finale. And so he hurt himself, and he wasn't ready to go. And he had to sit out. They really missed his presence off the edge. They got no pressure on Russell Wilson whatsoever. And when they did, he just escaped the pocket and ran. They couldn't contain him in the fourth quarter. I mean, he went nuts. And really, Russell Wilson had been playing steady football the whole game. He was carving up this Atlanta Falcons defense. They had to play zone because they watched that game the night before between the Packers and the Falcons. They knew they couldn't turn their back. They saw what Russell Wilson did to the Redskins a week ago, breaking contain, getting to the second level, and running read option at some points in the game and really hurting the Redskins with his legs. And so they knew they couldn't turn their back to him in this game. They had to play zone coverage. And there were some huge holes. I mean, some of these areas of the field were desolate. No Falcons in sight. And they were exploiting them. Russell Wilson was on the money. He was finding Zach Miller. He was finding Sidney Rice. He was finding Golden Tate. You name it. He was finding them. They were getting open and they were getting chunks. And in that fourth quarter, it all started to turn into points for the Seattle Seahawks. See, early in the game, they were getting those same chunks. except they weren't getting points at the end of their possessions. They were bogging down. They would have to punt, or they would go for it on fourth down, not get it. And so they weren't getting points. There was nothing to show for all of the work. Russell Wilson had close to 200 yards passing in the first half. I mean, he was absolutely shredding his defense. It just was there just wasn't anything to show for all of his work in the first half. But in the fourth quarter, it all came to a head as Russell Wilson took his team down the field on 2 consecutive possessions. And in a blink of an eye in the fourth quarter, it's now 21-27, the Falcons. And you can feel the tide starting to turn. After Matt Ryan threw that interception that set up the second of the Seahawks touchdowns, you could start to feel the air kind of come out of the stadium. And there was a bad throw by Ryan, overthrown. Earl Thomas made the same exact interception he made a week ago against the Redskins on a poorly thrown deep ball. And the Seahawks took it right down the field. They get in the end zone. It's 21-27. Falcons get the football back. And you're saying, okay, they need to get some first downs, eat up this clock. And if they can get a field goal, game's over. If they eat up the clock and then punt and pin the Seahawks, the game could be over. But by no means do you want to go 3 and out here. That's exactly what they did. They went 3 and out. They had to punt to the Seahawks. Luckily enough for them, the Seahawks couldn't do anything. They had to punt them back to football. This was the Falcons' opportunity to really put it to the Seahawks. We're getting under 7 minutes at this point. You're getting in that danger zone. If you're the Seattle Seahawks, you can't afford to be giving up first downs. They give up a first down, but then they force them to punt again. And this time, Seattle takes the ball the length of the field, scores a touchdown with less than a minute remaining in the game, 31 seconds to be exact. Falcons have 2 timeouts remaining in the game, but it's tough sledding. They're down 1 at this point. And my sister's a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. And as I was texting her, my phone died. I was texting her to tell her, remain calm, you're going to win this game. It seems bleak right now, 31 seconds, 2 timeouts, you're going to win this game. And the reason I was so confident is because, one, just like basketball, it takes a lot out of you when you fall behind by such a large margin and then have to come roaring and charging back. You exert a lot of energy when you do that. So it's hard to maintain that lead once you finally get it. It's an uphill battle you climb, and when you finally get up that mountain, you slip back down because it's so hard to stay atop after you get that lead after fighting so hard to get it. And that was number 1. Number 2, defenses at the end of games generally give it up because they're tight. They don't want to give up the big play. They're playing conservative. And that's when you get big chunks of yardage. I mean, in the fourth quarter, the Atlanta Falcons found it hard to do anything. Yet, with 31 seconds to go, Matt Ryan, a.k.a. Matty Ice, a.k.a. The Mattrel, was able to simply complete passes as if he was playing 7-on-7. And that is a testament to pressure on the part of the Seattle Seahawks, feeling the pressure of needing to secure the victory. Pressure on the part of them actually bringing pressure and not getting home. And also, we saw this earlier in the season. That's my third point. Remember that Chicago Bears game? Seahawks score a late touchdown just as they did in this game to take the lead. They seem like they have a firm grasp of the game. They should be able to secure the victory. And they let Jay Cutler throw a 55-yard pass to Brandon Marshall and get out of bounds, setting up a Robbie Gould field goal that sent it to overtime. Now, they ultimately won that game. But still, that game should have never found its way to overtime. And so that was in the back of my mind. I said, they can give it up here. And my fourth and final point. Haven't we seen the Falcons do this before? Remember that game 3-4 years ago? And they had no timeouts in this game. And he hit Michael Jenkins on the sidelines. And you're thinking, no way they come back and win this game. It was like 12 seconds left, and they were at their own 20. They complete one pass out of bounds. And then Matt Ryan somehow throws an insane pass So accurate on the sideline to Michael Jenkins. He gets out of bounds with 1 second left and kick the field goal to win the game. So we've seen the Falcons do that before. And they did it again. First play goes to Harry Douglas for about 20 yards. Second play goes to Tony Gonzalez for another 20 yards. And just like that, boom, they're in field goal range. And they send Matt Bryant on the field. He gets a free kick as Pete Carroll calls timeout. And he says, hell, my snapper snapped it. My holder's holding it. Might as well get a kick up. Might as well get a practice kick in. And he swung through. He missed. That kick held no merit with me. Because he was just practicing. He was just kicking it for the hell of it. The next time they set it up and they did it for real, when it counted, right down the middle. The only problem and gripe I have with the Falcons was they panicked. In a haste of being excited about catching that pass to set them up for the field goal, that last completion to Tony Gonzalez, they called a timeout way too early. In that instance, you call a timeout with 3 seconds left. So whether you make it or miss, the game's over. But under no circumstances should the Seahawks be touching the football again. Instead, Mike Smith was so excited he ran down to the official and called timeout with 15 seconds left. Why? Now, if you make the field goal, you still got to kick off to the Seahawks. And it was an interesting kickoff. After making the field goal, the Falcons intended to squib it. Instead, he tries to be so fine with the squib that he barely hits it. It looks like an onside attempt. Seahawks knock it down at basically the 40-yard line. They complete a pass for about 7 yards, gets them to basically midfield, and then he has one last attempt at the end zone on a Hail Mary. It's picked off by Julio Jones, and the Atlanta Falcons get it done in thrilling fashion, in come-behind fashion, in a game that they should have won going away, 30-28. What a valiant effort by the Seattle Seahawks, though. Take nothing away from them. Never thought they would come that close. And literally, it was in arm's reach. That victory was right there. Just slipped through their fingers. What a season for Russell Wilson. What a season for the Seattle Seahawks. This is a dangerous team moving forward. But what a great win. And I said it on the preview. This game was about the Atlanta Falcons. You know, everything that the Seahawks did in this game was fine. But it was going to be, at the end of the day, what the Atlanta Falcons did not do if they lost this game. Not what the Seattle Seahawks did. The storyline was going to be what the Falcons did to lose another playoff game at home. But instead, the Natural stepped up, got it done. And this is what I'm talking about. Clutch performances by good quarterbacks. Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, Russell Wilson, all clutch. Colin Kaepernick, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a really good game. He just played against a team that had a spectacular game. Simple as that. If he was playing against a lesser opponent, they win. Because he was good enough to win. So, Seahawks go home after a great season by them. But the Falcons get it done. And now they'll be hosting the San Francisco 49ers in the championship game next Sunday. For all the good games that occurred in Divisional Weekend, this wasn't one of them. And I had already said that I didn't think it was going to be one of them. And Sunday's games basically went the way I expected them to go. I thought that the first game had a chance to be a nail-biter. It was. I thought the second game had a chance to be a blowout. It was. Texas tried to make it respectable late in the game, but they never had a shot at winning. You never thought, hey, these guys actually could win this game. And to me, the first possession was very telling of how this game was going to go and why the Texans couldn't beat the New England Patriots in New England. They get a huge kick return by Danielle Manning. What a great hustle play by Devin McCourty to chase Danielle Manning down and not allow him to score after it looked like he was going to get in the end zone on a 94-yard kickoff return that got the Texans down to about the 13-yard line. And they run a play on first down. It's a run. And on second down, Schaub throws a beautiful pass that goes straight through the hands of James Casey. I mean, you couldn't have went up and handed it to him any better. He drops it. And then on third down, Andre Johnson is open in the back of the end zone after he ran a post route. and Schaub throws it not only behind him, but high enough to throw it up 3 rows into the seats, into the stands, and they had to settle for a field goal. And to me, that set the tone for the game. In a game that you need to score touchdowns in, you get the perfect opportunity to score a touchdown 3 times. Once on the kickoff return, the second time on the Casey drop, and the third time on the errant throw by Matt Schaub, and you don't take advantage of any of them, and you settle for a field goal against a team that averages up over 30 points a game. It's not going to get it done on the road in the postseason. And so that right there let me know the Texans aren't going to get it done in this game. And even though Gronkowski got hurt, even though Woodhead got hurt, even though they made a late charge in the first half to make it look respectable, score was 13-10 Patriots at the half because of a late surge by the Texans that saw them score 10 unanswered points to end the half. You knew that this Texans team was on borrowed time in this game. And second half, mainly the third quarter, the Patriots just dominated. Extended that lead out to 13-31 at one point. And that was basically it. The lead got as big as 38-13. Texans made a little run, made a go of it, got the lead to 38-28, but ultimately lose this game 41-28. What did you expect? I mean, honestly, what did you expect from the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots? I asked the question, what was going to be different in this game? Why should I believe that you're going to have a shot? And they gave me no reason, and that's exactly what they did in this game. They gave me no reason for me to have confidence in them winning this game. Arian Foster was solid. Matt Schaub was not sharp in this game, and they lose. Tom Brady, usual sharp self, made some great throws. The running backs were very key in this game. They were pivotal, were Stephen Ridley and Shane Vereen. They were huge in this game, and they had some big runs, some even bigger catches, and they really filled in nicely for Woodhead. And the Patriots keep a running back by committee stable, and so Woodhead goes out, the next couple of guys step in, and it's a seamless transition. Patriots get it done again. 41-28. They're in the AFC Championship game for the 7th time. It seems like in the last 10 years or so. And they'll be facing the Ravens. The same 2 teams that met a season ago in the AFC Championship game will do battle again. And if there's one team that can beat the New England Patriots, it's the Baltimore Ravens. They consistently play them close or beat the New England Patriots. And so I think this is going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. And everyone wants to see Ray Lewis ride out on that black stallion as he retires. And so let's see if he can take the next step to really having a storybook ending to his career, as he will be taking on the New England Patriots on Sunday in Foxborough. As that is your divisional matchups in a nutshell. 3 really good games. 1 game that was solid. A lot of points being scored. Again, NFL record, 276 points in this weekend between the 8 teams. Just really good football all the way around. I was so pleased with the action. And it was the football and the kind that you couldn't take your eye off of. And that's the kind that I like. That's the kind that I love. As a fan, that's what you want. And this is why Divisional Round is probably the best week in all the playoffs, because you get 4 games. And you get 4 games in Wild Card Weekend. But in Wild Card Weekend, you could get a stinker. Because just like last year, you got the Detroit Lions and the New Orleans Saints. It was a mismatch. The Saints couldn't be stopped by the Lions on offense. And the Lions had a juggernaut of an offense, but they couldn't keep pace with the Saints, and it was a blowout. And you get those on Wild Card Weekend, but in Divisional Round, everyone who's made it to that point is a good football team, and so you're going to get all the best teams. They're off of a bye now. They're playing, and you're going to get some really quality, sound football action. That's what we got. And I was so excited about the play on the field, and it was just a joy to watch. I was so thrilled with the outcome of these games. Even though I was wrong, still fun to watch. So that's a touchdown. Tack on this quick extra point, and really there's no need for an extra point. I think the play on the field spoke for itself. I will say that tomorrow I will come back and we'll talk about all the happenings of the weekend, where we stand with coaches being hired and fired, where we stand with GMs being hired and fired, and we'll get into all the specifics and things that transpired over the weekend in the National Football League, anything that might have taken place on Monday that we haven't addressed because of the playoff action. And so we'll come back tomorrow. We'll do that. I want you to stay tuned for the Cleveland Browns as they are up next in the L.A.B follow-up series. And they're the number 6 pick in the draft, and so they're the number 6 team in the L.A.B follow-up series. And so stay tuned for the Cleveland Browns as they'll be coming at you here shortly as I go in on the 2012 Cleveland Browns, talk about what's going on, because there's a lot of changes in Cleveland. New GM, new ownership, new head coach, a lot of moving parts. But I tell you one thing that's going to remain the same, a lot of talent, a lot of young talent in Cleveland. And so stay tuned for the Cleveland Browns as I touch on their season and what they need to do moving forward to become a better franchise. That's going to do it for In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me on this Monday long episode. You know I don't feel like getting into all the specifics of how you can contact or view the show, but it doesn't change. In the Lab Room is what you need to know. In the Lab Room on Facebook, In the Lab Room on Twitter, In the Lab Room on YouTube. You name it, you type it in, it's going to pop up. In the Lab Room at gmail.com is the inbox if you want to drop something in there. You know how to reach me. I thank you for joining me here on this program on this Monday afternoon. Want to see you back here tomorrow. Stay tuned for the Cleveland Browns L.A.B follow-up. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.